In exercise 4, we used our guacamole image here as our hero image. And as you recall, we use this image 800 pixels by 450 pixels. So it's a rectangle, 16:9 aspect ratio. But let's say you wanted to use maybe just an ellipse and you wanted the outer part of the image just to be transparent. Now there's lots of different things we can do with Photoshop. We're just going to hit on some of the basics, and then you're going to have to invest the time to practice and build your skills using these tools. So to start, excuse me, to start, let's just explore the basic geometric selection tools. And for the most part, you'll probably use the rectangle just to select an area. So let's say you wanted to create that icon that was 100 by 100 pixels. Well, you could drag out a square just by holding the shift key and just watch the numbers on the screen. And it might take a moment, but you could get this and you would end up having your 100 by 100. You could place the cursor and then move this anywhere where you would want to capture. Now, obviously this 100 by 100 on this very large image doesn't do too much, but you get the idea on how you could select a rectangular icon area. So holding the shift, if you do not hold the shift key, you get a freeform selection. If you do hold the shift key, then you will constrain the selection. Okay? Clicking somewhere will get rid of the selection, or Command D or Control D on a PC will deselect. Now, let's just say that we wanted more of an elliptical shape. And we want our shape to be 800 by 450, only an ellipse selection. So what I'm going to do is just maybe start right over here, and I'm going to click and drag out in ellipse, and I'm going to watch the numbers on the screen, and I believe we need 1600 by 900 because this is a very large image and I want to reduce this down to 800 by 450. So my start point is going to be 1600. So I'm going to take a moment here. I'm going to try to get as close as possible to 1600 by 900. And we want to be as precise as we can. So let's go pretty close. I'm just going to go with the 1601, 901. That'll be fine. All right. So now, again, we can place our cursor right over the edge of our marquee, our marching ants, and then we can move this to get a selection of our choice. Okay. All right. So let's say we like this selection right here. I'm going to go ahead and open my layers. I'm going to make sure that this layer is in fact selected, and then we should be able to go up to Edit. We're going to copy, edit, and paste. And I'm doing this because I want a copy of this layer. Okay. When I have the selection on this layer here, okay, and let's just open this up a little further. So the El Tango guacamole, if I had this one selected, and we could see the marquee. So basically, if I'm just going to do I'm going to Command click what is layer 1, which will bring back our selection. So if I had this layer selected, and we come down here and add a layer mask, then we would create a mask from that selection. But I didn't want that. I wanted a layer all by itself with a transparent background. So let's just do an undo here. Okay. We'll go back and select layer 1. Matter of fact, we can deselect by just clicking somewhere, or Command D or Control D on your keyboard. So let's give our layer a name. So we'll call this one Guac Alpha. And we're going to save this as a PNG file, and the outside area will be our transparency. Okay, so let's go ahead now and right click, and we're going to export as. I still don't want to go export a quick export because I want to get at some of the features here. So let's do an export as. We'll keep PNG, but I'll go with a smaller file size. So you'll notice right now this is 16 by 901, and we're going to bring this down to 800, and that will make our height 450, which is the size that was the requirement for the hero image area in exercise 4. All right, and then also from a previous demo, let's just go down and make sure that we have clicked the option to embed our color profile, that we're working with sRGB, and then we'll see over here that our file is 655 kilobytes. Okay. So what I'm going to do is now enable the smaller file size for PNG. So we're going to go from a 24 to an 8-bit file size. And you'll see that our file size has dropped substantially down to about 190. And then also from a previous demo, I still have my 1, 2, and 3 up. So what's going to happen is, and remember, you can click the presets here to add more and then choose the scaling that you want. If you're not happy, you can just click on the little trash can here. So 1 up, this will give us our 8 by 450. This one will give us our 16 by 900 and so forth. Okay, so in case your interface is going to be seen or used on a device with a higher pixel density, then you'll have these images and you could use them in that environment. So I'm just going to go ahead and create them all right now and then use the image that I need for my particular task. And ours will be the 800 by 450 or the 1 up. So let's go ahead and export all. And I'm going to save this into my images folder that I already have from that previous demo. And let's go ahead and open this up, which should save our images. Take just a moment here. Now, while this is saving, I should mention we could have added a border, but if you plan out your image and you have taken into consideration the proportions, then we can use CSS to add a border very easily. So let's take a look at that. So I'm going to go ahead and hide Photoshop. And I'm just using, you can use CodePen just to be easier. I just have Dreamweaver open right now for my editor. And what I'm going to do, I've already saved this file. It's in my root level folder where I've just saved those images. So I just need to place that image on the page. So let's just call our image element and our source equals, and I'm going to look in my images folder and there is our images Guac Alpha one time, and then we should add our alt equals. Okay, I'm going to leave this empty for right now, but we should credit the image, either the author of the image or the image name itself. Let's go ahead and end our empty image element here, and we'll save, and here is our image. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick preview. I'll just do a preview in Google here, and there's our image. Okay, now I mentioned about placing a border. Now we could place a border on this in Photoshop very easily. But if you needed to make an edit, if you changed your mind about color or width or whatever, then you'd have to go back and you would have to make a modification to your image. You'd have to then re-export your image. You'd have to change your file name. So in a case like this, since we know the dimensions, we know the proportions, it's really easy to just use CSS to add our border. So I already have a style element here. So let's go ahead and target our image element as our selector. We'll add our curly braces, and let's go ahead and add border. I'll go with 10 pixels solid, and let's just go with a dark, maybe like a really dark green here, almost black. Okay. Make sure I have my semicolon at the end. So we have our border. You see the border showing up. That's not what we want completely. Now we need to add our border radius. And we know that the image is 800 pixels wide, 450 pixels tall. So this is not a perfect circle, okay? So I'm going to go with 50% for my border radius. Now we're not going to see anything happen over here because in this visual mode over here, it doesn't understand what border radius is. So if we save and we go ahead and check our image, we'll see that our border in fact is going around here. So if we changed our mind and we wanted a different color, you can see that it's much easier to make our edits. Okay, so I'll save. Same would be true if I want to go ahead and make this 20 pixels. All right. Last is, why don't we go ahead and deal with the size of the image. Now the image element is in the body of the document, so the width of the image is based off of, right now, its physical size, but we can also control the width relative to its parent width. So let's just go ahead and type in width, and we'll say 50%, semicolon. And you'll see that your image is now 50% the width of the browser. In this case, the browser is the parent, but any element that you place the image inside, whatever that width was, then the image would be 50% of the parent's width. Okay? If you wanted the image to be full size inside the parent, then set the width to 100%. All right, so using a PNG with an alpha channel and a simple ellipse selection to create a curvilinear shape, a non-rectilinear shape with a transparent background, which you could use inside of your layouts.